the most valuable duo in the National League is?
To me, this one's easy. The most valuable duo to their team in all of Major League Baseball is Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts.
Whoa. That's what I would have picked. I thought for sure you were going to go Ronald Acuna Jr. and Matt Olson.
Let me explain why I took them over Ronald Acuna and Matt Olson.
Okay.
You take Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts out of that Dodgers lineup, and they are absolutely not a first-place team in their division. They are the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah.
They are both MVP winners. Last night, they had over half of the team's hits. They are, and they still have good pieces in the offense, but that Dodgers offense is Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Without them, that lineup would really, really struggle. The Atlanta Braves, without the duo of Ronald Acuna and Matt Olson, well, they have Michael Harris II, they have Austin Riley, they have Sean Murphy, they have Ozzie Albies, they have Orlando Arcia, they have all-stars everywhere you look. That lineup would be just fine. The difference between the Atlanta Braves and literally everyone else is their 7, 8, and 9 hitters in their lineup. That's what makes the Braves the Atlanta Braves this year. That team still wins the NL East this year without those two. Now, I can say that because the rest of the NL East, specifically the Mets, has been very disappointing this season, and I do think
they made their bed, though. They made their decision to be sellers. It's a different team now.
From the beginning of this season, the Atlanta Braves, I believe this, the Atlanta Braves team, without Ronald Acuna and Matt Olson, is good enough to win the NL East.
Oh, 100%.
And I cannot say that about the Dodgers without Freddie and Mookie. I think that's a ridiculous statement to make, that they would be the best team in that division without Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. So Freddie and Mookie are the most valuable duo to their team in all of Major League Baseball. I will say, though, I've started to bring up the conversation a couple of weeks ago about if the MVP race is getting a little closer than many people will acknowledge in the National League.
It's also kind of crazy that the 4 guys we just mentioned, it's like between 4 guys on 2 teams that this National League MVP race and conversation is actually happening between.
And I asked Smoltz about this every Saturday. Talk to John Smoltz. I asked him this specific conversation of, hey, Ronald Acuna is the favorite here. Is it closer than most people think? Who has your vote at this moment? So I want to play that clip now.
Look, the challenge for the Braves, and they got 2 contenders, right? Olson, and they've got Acuna, and then there's Freddie Freeman. And I'll tell you what, Olson's making a late charge with all that he's done with the power and the RBIs, and obviously a byproduct of Acuna. But the challenge is going to be if the Braves get to a point and they've locked up the number 1 record or not secured 1 of 2 and they, go on to win the division, how does Brian Snitker balance giving everybody the opportunity to do something specially individually?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a conversation we're going to hit a little later in the show about getting too hot too soon and what does that do for the team and the players and the personal records later. And it also kind of goes to the other side of like, Shohei Ohtani, what if the Angels are out of it pretty early? Are they going to just, I don't know, like maybe not have him in as often as he should be to not get injured? I mean, they're not going to have him after that anymore.
That's a completely different conversation of whether Shohei should play the last month of the season or not.
His records, but that's what it comes down to the last month. Like who's in the hunt? Who's resting? What's the kind of game management of your players?
Look, I still think the overwhelming favorite right now is Ronald Acuna. You want to talk about what Freddie's doing average-wise and still with that power there. You want to talk about what Matt Olson's doing with all the homers. Well, Ronald Acuna Jr. is just the perfect combination of everything that will also steal you 100 bases. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing this year. So I think the conversation, and I said this a couple weeks ago, and I was called crazy, but I think the conversation was just a little more of a conversation than people wanted to admit between Freddie and now Matt Olson. And now everybody's having that conversation. But I was crazy 3 weeks ago for wanting to have that conversation.
Just 3 weeks ago?
I think it's a conversation. I think Ronald Acuna Jr. is clearly right now the favorite to win the MVP award, but with what Freddie and Matt Olson are doing. But to fill in the blank with your question, the most valuable duo in Major League Baseball to their team, I believe, is Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts.
That's